thing. We're not TMZ. So if there's anything you say during the course of this, because you get caught up, because Matt and I are so engaging,
Sure.
you just can't help but, make it a therapy session. Just ping me and say, Jeannie, that thing that I said, could you take that out?
Okay, because I am not known for my discretion. I'm known for some things, but not my discretion.
Well, I could tell immediately that we were like sisters from another mother, because I have that same problem. I'm Jeannie Villette-Bowerman.
And I'm Kira Duggan.
And you are listening to The Story Will Save You. Welcome, Nancy. We're very excited to have you here today on The Story Will Save You. Yeah. So before we get started, I want to tell our audience a little bit about Nancy. First of all, everybody knows I have a crazy life and I have this antique shop. So in one day walks Nancy and her husband, and we just start chit-chatting. And when I realized that not only is she an author, but she's also a screenwriter, and her husband's in the industry as a producer. And so I was like, you need to be on our podcast. So here she is. She graciously decided to join us.
Yay!
I know. So our audience.
I'm here too, co-hosting. Hi.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Matt's here. Matt Mistich. Kira is still out on maternity leave, but by the time we get this live, she'll be back. She's got a new little nugget. So Nancy Doyne wrote the script for What Maisie Knew, which was a film that came out in 2012. It's an adaptation of a very old book, which I definitely want to dive into. The book was written in 1897. And her script was nominated for the USC Scripter Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. And she also has her first novel that's about to come out called 10 Swamps. So we wanted to talk to Nancy about a variety of things, because this hits all the bells for our audience. So first of all, I am fascinated by the themes of, from the children's perspective of the dysfunctional family and divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you there are so many millions of people out there who are like, oh yeah, that was my life.
I bet you there are too.
What drew you to that?
Maisie, I felt that I could write, and I wrote it with a neighbor who lived down the street from me in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica Canyon. I knew, because I'd been through it, growing up. I'd been through it. And Maisie was interesting because it was mostly from the child's perspective. I mean, the character of Maisie's only 6. In 10 Swamps, the character's 12 to 14. So in that sense, it's really different. And I should say the script of Maisie had a lot more humor in it than the movie ended up having. So, but because the thing that's fun about writing something from a child's perspective is that children don't see it, and actually it's true of grown-ups too, but it's even more true of kids, don't see it from the outside. They only see it from the inside. So from the outside, people may say, oh my God, this is so horrible. But for a little kid, it's just her life, she's bouncing around, doing the best she can, whatever it is, or he, but in both these cases, it's a girl. And so that is really fun. And the thing about the adaptation that was most fun is keeping that from the Henry James. So what we did, even though we veered away from the Henry James, mostly in the ending, but in some other ways too, but what we really maintained from the Henry James was keeping it from the perspective of the girl. Because she was in every scene in the movie, which that's kind of unusual. So there was nothing in the movie that she didn't see, witness, participate in. So it was like that. And I was going to say, in terms of my gravitation toward the material, as I say, this was part of my life. I grew up in a very, very chaotic family. And so I just know about this from the inside,
I've seen the movie less than 12 hours ago. So it's fresh in my head. I saw it many, many years ago when it first came out, and I didn't really remember it. And then I rewatched it last night. It's a beautiful little movie, and not really talks about it anymore. It feels like those movies that came out from the early 2000s to the early 2010s, and they don't seem to quite find a way to make them as much anymore.
At all. That's for sure.
Yeah, this sort of intimate drama, but really well written, and it's not high concept. It's about divorce and domestic turmoil, but it's just beautifully beautifully directed, for that matter. I forget who directed it, but I think it was the directing team, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautifully directed, beautifully shot, it was perfectly cast. And last but not least, the writing was wonderful. I'm
I was
curious
going
how
to
this.
say, start with the writers.
I'm going to end with the writers and give them that little boost at the end, just when they think
No thanks.
someone else isn't going to mention them. No, the writing's wonderful. I'm curious, the original script that you wrote in the 90s, right?
I can't remember when we wrote the script. I think we wrote the script. Oh, yes.
Wikipedia says 1995.
You're
Fact check
right.
that one.
I forgot because it took a really long time. We had a couple directors, and then this would happen. That the usual movie thing. This one would drop out, then this thing would happen, and whatever. And I think it took about 12 years. So I think we wrote it maybe 99, 98. I don't remember.
Wow. You should read your Wikipedia information more often.
It would be a good thing for me to look at.
No, I mentioned too, because a lot of times we'll have various really good scripts that run through the script pipeline contest over the years, and outsiders will sometimes be like, gosh, you guys have only gotten 6 scripts produced. And you know how hard it is to get a movie made,
oh my
no matter what genre it might be.
Yeah.
So this just shows sometimes it takes 15 years or
this
so.
Took I think a dozen years.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say that it's unusual. And maybe it's a tiny bit more unusual, maybe 1 or 2 extra years, but it takes a long time to get something. And particularly if, as you say, it's not a high concept. And now it's even harder, because now it's either Marvel or you're an independent movie. And I mean, honestly, Maisie was well received and people were very gracious about it, but nobody went to it. It never really got an audience much. Every now and then I'll meet someone and they'll say, oh my gosh, you did Maisie? That was such a nice movie. And I'll say, oh, you saw it? Because not that many people did see it. And that's the life of an independent movie,
Yeah. Here's my question to you, and then I'll let Jeannie ask. I'm sure she has 57 questions that she's never going to get to all of them. So I was watching it, I'm thinking, if that movie came out and miraculously had a theatrical release now, do you think audiences are really kind of trained to only go to the movies to get that spectacle experience, or do you think they would go for a smaller drama if it's marketed the right way? Number one,
to a theater, you mean? To
a theater, yeah. To go to the theater to go see this small, intimate, $3 million drama starring with 1 star name, or is that era kind of over with?
I don't know. I'm old enough to see that things go in cycles, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just got some crazy thing today about how a store was going to start sending out a catalog. Now, I remember my mother looking at catalogs, so things do that. Right now, we're in a really, right now, I think it's kind of hard to get people into the theater, you know? And I don't know. I mean, I just went to the Bruce Springsteen movie this week because it's at the New York Film Festival, so I went. But it's pretty hard to get people into the theater. But my guess, and this is all it is a guess, is that the pendulum's going to swing. And this is what people will want to see pretty soon. I mean, how many big, high production Marvel things can you look at before you're bored?
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons I like going to our little film festival in Chatham. Have you ever been to it, Nancy?
Yes, I love this film festival.
Fabulous. And tickets for members go on sale on October 4th. Just saying.
I know, we're a member of the
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't miss it. So is that they show, this is exactly the kind of film they would show. Sure. That's where you can go to see those character-driven dramas.
And the New York Film Festival too. Yeah. I mean, by the way, the New York Film Festival is all really, I mean, the Bruce Springsteen wasn't that great. That's the truth. But they're all Bruce. Character movies, Uh-oh, did I say the wrong thing about
No. We don't care.
Yeah, it's not that great. The acting is good. And of course, and he's a pretty good singer, the Bear. The guy who's star of the Bear did the singing really well, but it's a little bit simple-minded.
Coming soon, the theaters.
Coming soon. But I remember going to one of Bruce's concerts, and he does give a good concert. So
Oh,
we'll give him
yeah.
that.
You know,
He
the
was
thing is,
amazing concert.
I had seen the documentary like last week on TV about his
Mhm.
tour because I never really was a fan of his. I never listened to his music. And I watched his documentary and he was fabulous. I mean, he really was fabulous. So, and then I saw the movie. So it was funny to see them one right after the other.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet that was really interesting.
It
So
was.
talking about like the different mediums of things and same story told differently. During that, I've done an adaptation, so I understand the complexities of it. During that adaptation, when you're going back to a book that was written in the 1800s,
Mhm.
like I tried to listen to that book on audio and I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem. And so I'm going to watch the movie. So like tell me about like those challenges. Like what did you find to be the most challenging? And just about making the script, because then the script to film is a whole other.
That's a whole other. Okay,
thing.
let me just say it's a really interesting question. I also did a trollop that never got made. And trollop was even, the trollop was 750 pages. And like Maisie, I updated it to a contemporary story. And there's so many challenges. I mean, I'm just going to talk about the trollop for a second because it's easy. I say it because it's an easy example. Because the protagonist was a woman who was trying to get some power in a situation where she was threatened with losing everything. And she was trying to find a way to get some power for herself. And the status of women in the 19th century versus now in our present 21st century is so different. So you have issues like that. You say, oh my God, how on earth can I make this character still make sense and not just seem sort of avaricious and desperate in her behavior, her contemporary behavior? Whereas in the context of the 19th century, it made perfect sense, because women their lives were so small and they had to work so hard. In terms of Maisie, that was not really a big that wasn't that hard. The thing that was interesting about Maisie is when we first did it, we did it where it was a generation later. So instead of Julianne Moore and Steve Coogan, who are in their late 40s, maybe at the time that we shot the movie, we first did it with we wrote it as people were in their 50s, and that didn't work. It just didn't work.
Why didn't it work?
Why didn't it work?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting question. I think that it didn't work because we were trying to see it as an audience. So like, okay, when I'm writing a novel, I don't think about an audience. Like having just written this book, I just think this was the book I wrote. This just came out of me. With a movie, it's different. You really have to think about an audience, And we thought, okay, well, a character, a 6-year-old girl. So let's just have her parents be a more conventional. So I think the parents were 40 or something in the movie, so it was a more conventional age for her parents to be. But in terms of it being written in the 1890s, and it was written as a serial, actually, by Henry James, it wasn't that hard. There weren't that many challenges. The challenge was Henry James himself is a challenge because of his sentences and the way he goes on. And in fact, the book ends with Maisie going off with a nanny, ending up with a nanny. So you can
That's
see
what I was rooting for.
Yeah, it's a pretty different ending. And we had a lot with the nanny in the script, and that mostly was deleted. So for me, that was unfortunate because I really liked the scenes with the nanny a lot.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of interesting because there was a lot of energy coming from the other filmmakers, the other writer and the 2 directors, all of whom were men, to sort of get rid of the mother ASAP and to have the ending be Maisie with the, Alexander Skarsgård and the nanny and the other nanny, the young nanny.
Well, what I found interesting about it too is by like the midpoint or towards the end of the movie, especially, we've forgotten about the parents and we're just focused on this. It almost
Oh, I
changes.
hated them.
Right. But it almost changes, not changes genres, but changes the plot. We're more interested in the in Skarsgård and the wife of, Hugo.
Right. But I thought it was really imperative for the mother to come back in.
I do too.
Yes, right.
'Cause
We
I
can't
got-
forget about her entirely. But it was interesting just psychologically watching him like, oh yeah, she's still around. And
Right.
that really kind of buttoned up the whole story for me.
But you know what? I actually think they really wanted to get rid of her. I
Like
think all the
entirely.
other filmmakers really, for their own reasons, each of them wanted the mother gone. And I was like, you can't do that. This mother's not going to let go of her girl or her daughter.
Right.
She's out of control, but she's a mother. She's going to stick it through the end. So that was interesting, but that was more sort of internecine struggling, among the makers of the.
Yeah. Sounds Freudian.
But
there was a lot.
Probably.
And what was so fascinating to me too is that the way you exposed these characters, like the inside, the emotions of these characters, like Julianne Moore, first of all, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to make me not like a mother, that's really hard. But at the same time, I could see, as a mother who's a busy mother, I could see like her struggle with her career, her music, what she loves. But she was also such a narcissist and so beyond insecure that even her new cute young husband bonding with her daughter, which any mother would be like, yay, my new husband loves my daughter. This is great. But for her, it was like competition. It's like, so you did such a great job, like showing the layers of her, that to almost make the mother and the father the antagonists of the story, because it was Maisie's story. And these are two people who are keeping her from having a perfect, idyllic, happy childhood, Mm-hmm. I mean, just so well done and really showed the complexities of the family dysfunction when it's torn apart like this.
And much of that came from the James. I mean, really, Henry James, who was not a parent himself, but
even more impressive.
Yeah. And actually, the directors, neither of the directors had children either. So it was an interesting project. I really enjoyed writing it. I had only seen the movie once, which was the night of the premiere. And then like 2 summers ago, a friend was visiting and said, I've never seen the movie. Will you watch with me? And it's okay, I guess so, So this is 10 years later. So I watched it for the second time because the process of making it was really
crazy,
Byzantine, crazy, and difficult. When I ended up seeing it, I thought, hey, this isn't bad. This came out okay.
Yeah.
This isn't bad. So
that's sweet. But I really want to get to the your book. So first of all, as somebody who started off screenwriting, when did you like throughout your whole writing career and your thoughts of, I'm a writer, when did you say, I want to expand past screenwriting? I want to try writing a novel.
I never intended to be a screenwriter. It was a total accident. It's only that we moved to Los Angeles. So we moved to Los Angeles and my husband was making Tales from the Crypt. I wrote a Tales from the Crypt for it. And it came out pretty well. And I thought, oh, this is fun. And the thing about screenwriting, and you know this if you've done them both, is screenwriting is much more skeletal and it's much more structural. And that is a really big help when you're early on in a writer's career in a way, particularly if you're like me. I was always getting lost. I was always getting lost in what I was writing. And I gravitated towards screenwriting once I discovered it, which was only upon moving to Los Angeles, because I thought, oh, this gives me a lot of constraints. And this is helpful in terms of how to think. It actually makes your mind focus in a different kind of way. It's a little bit more mathematical, screenwriting is. So it was actually the opposite. I always wanted to write prose, but I took a detour into screenwriting because we moved to Los Angeles. And that's what everybody did there. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll try it,
Right. And it worked out.
It worked out.
And that's so funny because that's exactly my path. I always wanted to write a
Oh,
novel
really?
and I got pulled. See, I told you, sister from another mother you are.
Really?
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it when you come into the store. Exactly.
It could
my
be the
path.
same mother. Those are small towns up there.
I don't know. You never know.
Same town, same mother. But no, it's true because you can't move. Matt, do you live in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Well, any writer who lives in Los Angeles, sooner or later, is going to try to write something for the screen.
Yes. And I've lived here forever. So, yes, I can agree. I can agree with that. This is just it's still, a lingeringly, languishingly, you shouldn't end words with ly, by the way, that's what Stephen King said, but nevertheless, it's still a creative town. The energy is still creative. And even people, just being around that makes you want to write a screenplay or a book.
Definitely.
Or something. No, I don't know about more or less than other big cities. Maybe it's the same in New York. I doubt it is.
It's not the same.
Yeah,
It's
there's
not the same.
a slower pace here that makes you want to sit and think.
And that's what everybody's talking about is movies. That's all anybody talks about. I mean, literally, I would lie in bed with my husband while he would be on the phone talking about hiring writers. And I'd be like, what's wrong with this picture? Here I am. I better try this or else I'm going to kill this man. That's how I started.
Couldn't get signed by our own husband.
Yeah. First screenplay.
You ever screenplay? Yeah.
So you were talking about how you really enjoyed that kind of structure of screenwriting and those boundaries and limitations.
Yeah.
When you first started writing the novel and finally got to, write the prose that you had always imagined writing, what do you think about how learning how to screenwrite first before you wrote a novel might have helped in writing that novel?
Okay, that's an interesting question. And I taught writing for a really long time for college students. I think that structure is not a natural gift for a lot of people. And you don't necessarily think as a writer, structure. You just think you're so lucky if you can make sense, right? Because it's hard to make sense. I found it really hard to make sense. And for me, the fact that I would not have been able to write this book at a younger point because I couldn't think clearly enough. You really have to understand your life, number one, have some clarity about your life, and then be able to write it. So screenwriting is different. You don't need to have that much clarity about your life, You just need to understand beginning, middle, and end, and be a little bit clever or creative or imaginative about how you get from one step to the other. So you walk down the street and you see a car and then you see a store and then blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, well, you can go from there to there to there. It's just like, it's like stations. It's like stations on a train track or something. I think learning about structure is super helpful at any time for any kind of writing. And I think a lot of people approach prose without an understanding of structure. And I certainly did. So writing screenplays made me conscious of structure. So
I would love to underscore that point too, because you're absolutely right. Most novelists who aren't familiar with screenwriting, they just kind of jump into a novel. Even if they're avid readers, it just wanders and it meanders and there's no real glue to it. But the screenwriters I've seen that have transitioned to novel writing, their prose might need a little bit of work because it's a new medium and they're not used to it. But they're like, okay, and this happens because of this, and this happens because of this. It's the old, the South Park guys, Trey Parker talked about that, how you structure a story. Pixar says the same thing, there's a causality to everything.
There has to be. And each scene in the screenplay, you say, okay, every scene has to contribute 2 or 3 things, It can't just be one thing. It can't just be that you're moving along the plot. And of course, plots have taken, a beating in contemporary literature and stuff, but plots are very helpful. And you say, okay, well, what happens next? And where's this leading? And when are things going to move in a different direction? And all that comes from screenwriting.
Yeah.
Aristotle. I mean, just as simple as can be. But you don't. But I never thought about it as writing prose until after I wrote a couple screenplays. And Maisie wasn't my first. I sold my first one, but it was never made. And then the Trollop, which was really fun. Someone was going to make a podcast of it, which I thought was really weird, but they were going to do it anyway. But then that didn't.
What was the first script you sold?
It was called, what was it called in its first iteration? I think it was called Fortune is a Woman. And it was about a mother and a daughter. It was about a divorced woman who had sort of become a recluse, and her daughter trying to get her out in the world again. And they make this ridiculous bet, and it gets all confused and crazy. And, it was of a time and place.
I just have to ask a question.
Yeah.
Since you write so much about divorce, is your husband worried?
No, because we've been married almost 50 years. But let me say, I'm the only person, my sister, my brother, my parents, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, I'm the only one who has stayed married.
Oh, wow.
And when Bill and I got married and we met in college, a couple of people said to Bill, I'll give it 6 months. Never gonna last. So there you go.
God. Well, and I have met Bill, and you two are a charming couple. I'm confident you're in for the long haul.
I think so. We've met at 18 and 19,
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. That's fantastic.
Did they buy anything at the antique store?
They did. They bought a gift for somebody.
And not only that, she loved it. We bought a present, a birthday gift for Lisa Van Allsburg, and she loved it.
Yeah. And fun story, her husband, Bill, produced Polar Express. And I told him this beautiful story about my daughter, who I'm sure is not listening to this, thank God, that when she was like 10 or 11, and if there are any children in the room right now who don't want to hear about Santa Claus, might want to
I don't think our
get them out of the room.
is
I don't think that's our demographic either. So anyway, she was really upset about the whole Santa Claus thing. And she had decided I was a lying, horrible mother. And then we took her to see Polar Express, which she begrudgingly went to because she was 10 and too old for this stuff. She watched that film. And when she came out, she looked at me and she goes, Mommy, I believe. And it was just the most beautiful thing. And when I told Bill the story, I started crying.
Bill told Chris this story.
Yeah.
Did that really happen?
Yes. 100%. 100%.
This story, like, just it's a powerful story for people.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. They're doing more now. They're getting ready to do 2 more things.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Does she still believe in Santa? Was she 32?
Well,
now?
she's 30, but she's pretty happy with whatever presents come under the tree.
All right, thanks. So,
how about your daughter?
She, I don't think she ever believed in Santa, for that matter. She's never told me she believes in anything. So we'll see how this goes. Could be a serial killer.
She is going to end up in Australia.
Yeah.
Now, what is Australia about? What's the Australia thing?
Nothing. I was just talking about the time zone and how it's so annoying to figure out the time zone.
I was at my doctor yesterday for my physical, and she is a doctor and her husband is a doctor, and their son is joined the Marines, and he's in Okinawa.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wow.
Yeah, try scheduling that soon. Right.
Yeah. Wow. We're talking about sons and parents and being parents. As a parent, was it tough for you, like with this new book? Like, was it tough for you to write like from the kid's perspective? Also, like Maisie too, but like since you're a parent, did you think that helped you get into actually the headspace of a child?
I don't know what it says about me. It made me really bad. But writing from the perspective of a 12-year-old came so naturally. It was just no problem at all.
That's great.
Yeah.
So one thing that was super amazing, however, because it is kind of an autobiographical book, is that I had forgotten my mother. My mother had been sick for a decade before she died. And and there's a lot. I mean, it was my older daughter who convinced me to write about my own life. And at first I was like, no, no, no. Don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. And then I thought about it for a number of months and I thought, I don't think I can do it because I don't remember anything. But, writing is magic in a lot of ways. I mean, it really is. I don't know where it travels in your brain, but I had very few memories and it was a problem, I thought. And as I wrote, my mother came back to me.
Mm.
And if nothing had happened to the book, if it had never been published, and I'm so grateful to Pointed Leaf Press for publishing it, I'm so grateful. But had it never happened, just the fact that my mother, who I had forgotten, just came back to me as I wrote.
Yeah.
So, no, it was very easy to be 12 years old. And
That's awesome. And I also think I love what you said about like, even if nothing happened to it, because I think so often writers get so hung up on haven't been produced yet or haven't been published yet. And they are not thinking about just the pure joy they get from writing and not giving that enough value.
No. I have actually very strong opinions on this.
Share them, please.
I was writing books and nothing was happening to any of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't stop because it's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never like, yeah, it would have been nice maybe if something had happened earlier, but I really don't care. It's just like you do it because you're telling a story as best you can, you're just doing it. I don't think that I ever wrote a single line of prose for anybody like to think, oh, this person this will get it made or this will make this be published. I really don't think I ever did.
That's great.
I think I can tell you from secondhand experience, I guess, that so many writers now are screenwriters, authors. I think it's a lot different. But screenwriters, they're putting so much pressure on themselves to make money off of screenwriting so that they can quit whatever lousy job they have, because most of them have lousy jobs now. They had lousy jobs in the 90s too, but they love working at the video store. So I don't know. But that's the overwhelming sentiment, I feel like. And they put so much pressure on themselves. And then when one little thing falls apart, they get so discouraged and it affects their writing and their creativity and their process. And it's just this horrible cycle of like angst. It's really
and there's
sad
psyche
to
too.
see.
It's
they get
bad.
depressed.
Yeah.
It's a very, I don't want to say it in any kind of judgmental way because I don't feel judgmental at all, but I'm going to use the word dumb anyway. But it's kind of a dumb gamble, in terms of making money because you just don't, I mean, I wrote 2 movies that got produced. One of them, they said to me, well, can you put your salary please back we need your salary in order to get the movie made. I was like, oh, all right, And then with Maisie, I said no, but they asked me with Maisie too. So it's not, and I'm not going to make any money on this novel. I'm sure I'm not. So it's not like a movie maker.
No, and I have a manager friend that kind of dismisses a lot of writers as hobbyists, but I think in a way you have to treat it almost like a hobby with career intent, at least, so you don't go insane. You don't put too much pressure on yourself, right? You have to have like kind of a balance there.
Right. I think that I'm not sure I'd use the word hobby, but nor would I use the word career. I really think that it sort of has to be what you are. You're just a writer.
Yeah.
I like that because
you're just a writer. It's just what you are, for better or for worse. Just like we're all everything that we are, for better or for worse.
And the great irony in all this is that if that screenwriter gets a movie made, or gets 2 or 3 movies made, or gets 2 or 3 or 5 books published, chances are they will not be quitting their regular job anyway. For 80% of them, right? 70% of them.
It's not. No, it's true.
Yeah.
There was a time it's a long time ago now. I think about 40 years ago, writers really could make money, just even rewriting. I mean, I knew people when I first moved. I moved to LA in '88, and it was during the writer's strike. And I didn't know anything about anything. All I knew was Nathaniel West had written a novel and Joan Didion had written a novel. I didn't know anything. And you saw these really fancy houses, with for sale signs. And it was the writer's strike. And you just thought, there's a real gap here between the way things seem and the way they are.
So I don't know anything about Joan Didion, so I can't really comment.
She's fantastic.
I would love to.
She was fantastic. There was at the Crandall Theater. They did the documentary about her.
Oh yeah, I know. I didn't.
Beautiful.
Yeah, her nephew did it, right?
Yeah, her nephew did it.
Yeah.
Didn't I get an autographed book for you, Matt, by him? I think I did.
Yes, for Griffin Dunn. Yeah.
Yes, Griffin Dunn. Yeah. Anyway, that's a side note. When you were talking about, I was just bringing back to that audience experience, you're thinking about that when you're writing a script, and when you're writing a book, you're not thinking about that. And when I was looking at your novel, thank you for the viewing of it. Your writing is so succinct and so like, here we are, we're getting right in here. And I love that. It was great. And it's such a different experience. Especially because I had just watched Maisie. And then I opened up the book.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. Like it was such a great juxtaposition of skill sets. I'm experiencing it in a different way, because it's me and your words. Like my mind is like, okay, now I have to start visualizing. I don't get the help of somebody bringing it to life on a screen for me. Like I am. And there's that power of prose that, you're crawling inside all of these readers' heads, and I'm going to visualize the characters completely different than Matt will visualize them, which is one of the things I love about books. And then in the adaptation process of it, I've got some friends who've gone to see some movies that were adapted where they really loved the books, and then they were all disappointed about the characters on the screen because that's not how I imagined them. The book is always like such a lovely experience. I mean, would you ever want this book adapted, 10 Swamps?
I don't know. If someone could find a way into it, to go back to something you both said earlier about having written for the screen informs me now writing for prose. My present prose, I will also say, I think I'm a more visual writer now. And that comes also from having written screenplays. But as you say, I mean, if somebody wanted to, I think it's probably, it's a very internal book on one level, but on another level, I think it's probably pretty accessible. I don't know.
Would you want to do it?
I don't know.
Because you wonder, like sometimes there's those stories that you're just too close to.
Yeah. I think I'd be really happy to leave it behind now.
Yeah.
I'm going
what a gift.
There's going to be a book party and I'll read a couple pages, and stuff. And I like the book. I really do. And the book, as I say, has incredible value to me for what it gave me, which is these memories that came back to me. So I feel I've reclaimed a part of my life that I had lost. And I mean, how great is that?
That really is such a gift to also just feel like, okay, I'm done with that. Like I can move on from this and go on to something else.
I feel that.
Do you have another project that you're going to start working on or have started working on?
Yes, I do. I mean, a book, not another screenplay, because I'm getting a little long in the tooth for the screenplay stuff. Like they don't want to hear from me. Like the movie business is for a young biz. It really is. And who goes to the movies? 13-year-old boys, so they don't want to hear from me. And am I going to fight uphill to go against the tide, to do some kind of character drama of whatever? No, I'm not going to. I'll leave it to my daughters. They want to fight that fight. They can fight that fight. I'm somewhere else now. So I was writing one book, and then my same daughter, my older daughter, Lucy, who was the one who told me to write about my life, said to me, I was one of the first in true life. I was one of the first women at an all male college. And she said to me, you should write about that. And I thought, why would I write about that? I mean, why? And then I started to think about it, and I thought, well, there's a lot that went on that was pretty kooky.
I bet.
So now that's what I'm thinking about, but I don't know. I have two things that I've begun, and I'll see which one, has staying power.
The title of your first spec will apply to this one, Fortune.
Fortune is a girl.
Yeah.
I have a hard time looking at freshmen in college or sophomores in college and doing the man-woman thing. I don't know.
Right.
Well, and also too, like, I think in terms of that story that Lucy was suggesting, you're right. Like my mom, who's 93, when she went to college, her name is Frances. She gets to the University of Connecticut, and they had her in a male dorm because they thought she was a man. And when she went for her first job interview after she got her master's in math, she goes to this job interview. She's sitting in the waiting room, and this man comes out and says, "May I help you?" And she goes, "Yes, I'm here for the interview. I'm Frances DeFosse." And he goes, "Oh, we don't hire women." It's not that. My mother's still alive, and this happened, It's not that long ago.
I know. That's what was so crazy. One of the things when I was writing 10 Swamps, and for me, the early drafts were just me reclaiming and getting into this thing, getting into what the book was. But later drafts, I realized, oh my God, I'm writing history.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing history because this was the 60s. And I don't think of it as history because I just think of it as my life, right? But then you realize, no, it's history. And where you really see it is women's lives.
And just to really depress you, 1980 is considered historical fiction now.
Insane.
Ridiculous.
But when I think, my mother...
I wasn't born yet, but whatever.
When were you born?
81.
Oh.
I'm not quite historical fiction yet.
I was graduating high school when he was born.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, no one cares about that. But Nancy, thank you so much for joining us, because this was such an incredible episode of a million golden nuggets. And also, I don't know where the expression long in the tooth came from.
You never heard that expression?
No, I've heard it, but it's like, where would that, do our teeth get longer? I don't know. As we
teeth keep growing.
I think maybe.
Oh, God, that's depressing. The Story Will Save You is a Pipeline Artists original podcast. Like, subscribe, and follow us on social media at Pipeline Artists and at Book Pipeline. For more information, visit pipelineartist.com and bookpipeline.com, where we have contests for unpublished manuscripts as well as for published books that would make great adaptations for either film or television. Learn more about our efforts to help writers find publishing success on bookpipeline.com. Until next time, let the story save you.